Hey, it's Cody. I'm here to do sort of an end of the year-ish wrap up on the books that I have read during the year of 2023. Um, this beautiful cloth I have here, it's actually a scarf, and I bought this because I was wanting to use it as an altar cloth. It did not occur to me that, like, the beading on here, I don't even know why the fuck these ones are pink, but even the ones that look better on here are, really a pain in the ass to sit stuff on. Like, everything's just fucking askew the entire time, so I feel like it was kind of a good representation of my year of reading books. I was excited about a lot of things, and a lot of things sucked ass. Like these kind of look like lava flows. It's representative of me being in hell while I'm trying to just fucking read books, right? Um, so I have limited myself to 3 books that I like the most. Um, well, okay, 3. Okay, whatever. So I've got the ones that I like and the ones that I've disliked. But first I actually wanted to start off and talk a little bit about how I've been, like, documenting my reading. I want to say that I'm not a person that gets, like, I don't have, like, reading goals. I mean, a goal might be, like, I want to read, um, more horror books or something. But I would never be like, I want to read, 50 books this year. I'm not like that. Um, yeah. If, like, at the beginning of, like, a month video, if I show a book, if I don't get to it that month, then I don't get to it and I don't give a shit. Like, it, I think that, like, online sort of book social media spaces have made a lot of shit about reading weird. It's a leisurely activity for me. I enjoy doing it when I get the time to do it. I'm not, like, goal oriented about it by any means. But I do like to sort of track what I'm reading just so I can look back and see. So earlier this year, I got, this is like a reading journal. It's by a Clockwork Reader. I don't know if you watch her channel at all. She has, like, a YouTube booktube sort of channel. I'll be completely honest. I mean, I've seen a few of her videos. I'm not sure that books that she likes and books that I like are really the same books. I mean, that's fine, but her recommendations generally turn out to not be things that I really like. Anyway, this, though, is a reading journal that she created. I thought it might have been kind of cool. So I don't really want to show you all the pages that I did fill out, just because if I don't want to give any spoilers, okay? And, like, I feel like I did that. On the inside, okay, we've got, like, our star thing, dates. My issue with this is just pretty much that these questions aren't really things that I personally feel is important to document about a book that I've read. Like, okay, a favorite quote, that's fine, but, like, where were you when you read this book? Like, that's a weird question to me. Like, if it was a book that was, like, maybe, okay, I finished reading, oh my god, I can't believe I'm about to say this in real life out loud to, like, other people that could hear this. I read Stephanie Meyer's Midnight Sun, which is so awful and so fucking funny. Please read it if you have read the Twilight books and hated them. But I finished that while I was, in New Mexico, which is not where I live. And I did finish that there, and I remember that about it. Like, maybe I would write that, but, like, just for any of them, like, I was sitting in my bed, like, still in my pajamas. Like, it's not, it was, for the most part, I'm not reading books cool places. Most memorable scene, I guess, is fine. Would I recommend this book and why? That's weird too. I don't give a shit. What did I learn from this book? Like, I don't necessarily learn something from every book. There's also, like, this blank space here. This just isn't the stuff that I personally am into about a book. I mean, I'm using this. I think it's just a quick little thing to write down my stars and, whatever. Ultimately, though, I will show you. Just kind of admitting embarrassing shit all over the place here. This is a reading journal that I've sort of just made myself, and really it's just a blank journal. Like, it's freeform. Oh my god. As you can see, I plan on using it next year. So really, Okay, I did all this. This is, we're gonna ignore that. Okay, so really what I did was I made a whole page for the book, and I also put like a tarot card or tarot cards that I thought of while I was reading it. So there's some quotes. I got the Chariot and Hermit. I sort of fell off the wagon here. I wasn't doing it monthly. Then I went back and added some. It was a book that I read. This is going to be a chart. Oh my god, comparing and contrasting the chart with DeRossi, Fargo, and Alucard Emery. Oh my god, I should delete this video. Okay, here, so it's, I just like to write shit. Like, maybe I had a theory that didn't work out, or, you know, just whatever ridiculous bullshit I thought of during it, I write down in here. I guess that I just can't do with, like, the structure of the way the Clockwork Reader one is. And again, I don't feel like, I don't want to say it's values necessarily, but just the way that it seems to be aiming at the books is really not the way that I look at them. So, yeah. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm going to start out with the books that I liked, and we'll go from there. So the first book that, well, I mean, not like chronologically the first book that I liked this year, but I will start with the Book of Ancestors. This is by Claire Goodchild. Now this, I believe, came out in October of this year, right? Or maybe the end of September. Fuck, I don't remember. The point is, this is a guide to magic rituals and your family history. Now, I'm a really big fan of books and authors that can tell when there has been too much of something and it's time to sort of switch tracks. Have you ever read like a witchcrafty kind of book and you just open it and it's just solid text, like a fucking block of text, and like, my brain gets bored. Or if you open one up and it's just all like spell work, right? You just open it and there's a paragraph and there's a list of shit, and then there's like bullet points and there's, you know, numbered steps and shit. And if it's page after page of that, like, my brain does not work to just do that. Like, when I'm reading like a fiction book, that's fine. When it's witchcraft kind of stuff, I don't know why. Like, my brain just takes in the information differently. And Claire Goodchild, I think, does such a good job of knowing how much information is the right amount before moving on to the next thing. So, like, while I'm reading her writing, the Book of Ancestors, and her other book of Seances, I never got bored, right? There would be sort of an introduction, but it didn't drag on, but it wasn't not enough information. And so there'd be like an intro, there'll be some history on, you know, whatever the thing is, or, and then there'll go ahead and be like a spell or like some sort of practical working that you can do. And I just really, I feel like I don't really see other like witchcrafty authors being able to switch gears at the right time for me. Like, I don't know how else to explain that. This book has in it information, just on honoring your ancestors. And there's really, I think there's something for everyone, right? Like, they're just small things, so many good ideas, that whether you're new to ancestor veneration, or whether you've already have like an established practice, this is one of those things where you can get started with it first thing, or there's just little things you could be like, I could add that to my practice, you know? And I also appreciate books that sort of suggest simplicity, because that's how you make things into like something you're going to keep doing, right? It's one thing to occasionally do some big drawn out ritual. Ultimately, you're not going to do that shit every week. Like, realistically, it's just not going to work for most people. So there's just so many cool things in here. I don't want to like open it and spoil any of the stuff. But I do recommend this book so hard. There's artwork in here. It's beautifully laid out. It's well written. It's well researched. It's well thought out. And I love this book. Love it. My little hell cloth is like getting crooked here. And it has fucking cat hair on it. Okay. The next book that I want to talk about, this is God Killer by Hannah, I believe it's Kaner. Maybe it could be Connor, but I doubt it. All right. This book, I mentioned before that I really, really enjoyed this book. Now this is, it's a work of fiction. It's fantasy. Normally, I avoid books with beautiful covers because I feel like a lot of times that's the thing that they're trying to draw people in with rather than the story being of any, like, quality on the inside. I've also been having trouble sort of finding books that are fantasy and not this romantasy shit that's been going on lately. Like, when I pick up a book that claims to be about dragons, I don't expect smut. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not what I'm looking for. And this is truly a fantasy work. This is the first in the series. So basically, the idea of this book is that the gods have been outlawed in this kingdom. So gods have gotten out of control. Big, huge, like, war gods and shit, have been fucking with villages, like, on the outskirts sort of this kingdom, and finally the king's like, you know what, we're done with gods, and not just, like, big ones, but, like, all of them. So even, like, little gods of, like, traveling down a specific path, or, like, just shit like that. So there are these people now called god killers, who go around, and the gods in this world are attached to, like, their shrines. So the bigger the god is, if they have a bunch of shrines or they have, like, temples and shit, they're much harder to get rid of. But small ones you can just kick over a shrine, you know, and you've done it. So one of three main characters is a god killer, and she is paid to destroy gods, to destroy their shrines. Eventually she runs into a second main character who is a girl, I think she's like 12 or 13, who has a small god of white lies attached to her. And what's cool about this is that this god of white lies does not have a shrine. He can't be destroyed by destroying his shrine because somehow his attachment is actually to the girl. So, like, the god can't be disposed of because it would require killing the girl. So it's interesting. It's fun. Yeah, there's a third main character. I can't really get into what he's doing. There's fuckery, there's betrayal. My one issue is with this book is not even, it's not an issue that everyone's gonna have. Okay, the little god of white lies is, I believe, named Skediseth. I mean, I don't know how to pronounce that. Okay, somewhere in here he actually has, like, chapters where he's talking. Well, I was kind of hoping I could find one. So you could see how the name is spelled, but for the most part, okay, here we are. For the most part, he has a nickname, which is Skedi. Now, I feel like there are different ways that maybe a person could pronounce this. So it's either Skedi, like Paschetti, or even worse. Okay, there's this Curtis Connor video where he's talking about this fucked up Pinocchio movie. And at the end of the video, making fun of it, he does, like, a rap battle between the Pinocchio on this movie and, like, the Disney version of Pinocchio. And there's a part where it says, Skedi's nuts. And so if the name is Skedi, then it's Skedi's nuts. Otherwise, it's Paschetti. And that fucks me up every single time. Like, I don't know how to make my brain not pick one of those or just ignore it. Like, it's my own fucking problem. But yeah, I highly recommend this book. I think it's so cool to see, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I can't give too much away is the problem, because I want you people to read this. That's what. But there's big gods and there's small gods, and just the way that they're interacting, you know, with their people who worship them. or just work with them. I think it's really cool, and honestly, I really think that it's kind of relevant to like spirit work or deity work. This is the first in a series. I don't know. I feel like I saw that it was a trilogy, but it might not be. I might have just made that up. I don't know. But the second one of this, I think, is supposed to be coming out in January, so I'm very excited for that. All right. My next book that I liked, this is Labyrinths Heart by M.A. Carrick. Now, this is the third book, the third and final book in the Rook and Rose trilogy. M.A. Carrick is actually two other previously published authors working together. This was the ending, I think, of my favorite, like, book series ever. There is really, I mean, I feel like this, well, okay. There are ways that this actually is better to me than The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. And like, I don't think you understand the amount of goodness something has to be to like unseat that as my favorite. Anyway, I loved the series. I will say that the very ending, my favorite character was kind of fucked over in the end. It had one of those endings where like everybody paired up and like got married and shit. Like it was no thanks to that ending. But I do feel like the very end of a book isn't necessarily, it doesn't negate everything good that happened before it. Like this series is a fucking chunk. Like all of the books, or all three of the books, are at least 600 pages. It is so just complex. Like it has a huge cast of characters. It's got so much good shit going on for it. Basically, there is this girl, and she's like a maid or something for this lady. She ends up she comes back to this, like, upper class kind of place, where she had been, like, in a foster home and used by this old, terrible lady who made her, like, go out and pity Russell and like try and get food or change from people while also stealing valuables from them and shit. Like, anyway, she comes and she's pretending to be this rich lady's like long lost niece. It's a bunch of fuckery. There's magic. There are like magic cards that they call pattern cards. There's like high magic where you're, writing circles with your little symbols and all this like numerology kind of shit. Like it is so involved, but it is so cool. And I really, really recommend this. I wouldn't recommend this to someone who like has really just kind of started reading fantasy. I feel like it might be kind of a lot. Just because it doesn't do a very good, it doesn't do a very good job of showing you initially what characters are important to remember and which ones really aren't, if that makes sense. Like you start out and there's just 20 characters getting thrown at you, and there's really very little differentiation at that point between like this one's a main character, or these are supporting characters, or this is one that's going to be mentioned, 3 times. Like, so personally, I found that confusing at the very beginning of it, but like once you get moving, you kind of realize what's happening. And yeah, love. All right. So I gave myself one extra book that I did like. This one is poetry. So yeah, this is Leaf Litter by Jared K. Anderson, who on like Instagram, Facebook, I don't know what all he has. He has a podcast too. He's the crypto naturalist. Crypto is in like secret, sort of, not like cryptocurrency kind of bullshit. This is a book of poetry. This is the third of his books of poetry. One is Love Notes from the Hollow Tree, and oh my god, I don't remember the other one. Oh no, it doesn't even mention them here. Oh yeah, the Field Guide to the Haunted Forest, Love Notes from the Hollow Tree, and Leaf Litter. I think this is actually one of my current favorite poets. I love the ideas. I know it's really just nature-based, but to me it feels like witchy, just because that's ultimately kind of the way that I view a lot of things. Sorry, I had to get a drink, holy shit. But no, I fucking love this. This just came out, I think the beginning of December, and I really love that. Okay, we are to the things that I dislike. This is the second worst. I had trouble picking which was like the ultimate worst. I think anyone who's seen any of my other videos where I mentioned this knew damn well that you're going to see this damn book. This is The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. I have an entire video talking to, it's like 40 minutes. Just, it's me sitting and bitching about everything I hated about this book. It's ultimately just poorly done. That's really it. This book got really big, I think in 2015, 2016, and people were like, this is so unique, I'm tired of reading reviews calling things unique, because a lot of times things are like the only one that's like that, because that way is not good. It does not work well. The story was all over the place. The pacing was atrocious. The characters were annoying. On my big 40-minute rant about this book, I had decided that probably some of these parts of like prolonged graphic violence that are depicted in this book were probably attempts at humor, because it kept doing that thing where like it'll build a ridiculous situation and then zoom out to be like, oh, he was, shooting, here's something that's going on in here. Shooting dogs with a gun some ex-military guy gave him, and lions showed up to help him, and like, it, not only is that corny as fuck, but I don't even know, man. It keeps I don't remember what it's called. There's a phrase or a word, there's a term for kind of backing up all of a sudden from the situation to like look at it from the outside, and I think it's supposed to be humorous. Anyway, in the comments, somebody said that they thought that the dog killing scene was supposed to be horror. And I was like, I mean, fictional books are art, and art is subjective, but the problem is this book is not really written well enough for people to be getting different interpretations in that way. I think it was just poorly done, and nobody knew how they were supposed to be feeling. This book was so awful. Unreal. But that was just the honorable mention, because the absolute worst book that I read this year, I don't think this came out this year. This might have come out last year, but this is The Night in Its Moon by Piper C.J. I learned a little something while I was reading this book, and it's that I had been for a long time avoiding reviews or any sort of information about books, because I didn't want to go in with any sort of preconceived notion. Like, if I read a review about a book and it was like, the pacing was shit, then I go in to read it, and I would be looking at the pacing the entire time. And like, maybe I wouldn't have noticed that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be looking for a problem, or like, I don't want these preconceived notions when I go in. I want to, explore my way through the book and its world and the story and come to my own conclusions. That bit me in the ass on this one. Reading this book it almost felt like a joke. Like, that's really mean, what I just said. But it felt like, I'm not really a fanfic reading person. But you ever read some Wattpad shit and you're like, bitch, what the fuck? This is that level, but like worse. It was just puked out on the page. The pacing was insane, even worse than The Library of Mount Char. It had bizarre racism, really weird attitudes towards sex workers. Just, religions don't work if everybody hates them. Like, it has to be built into the world in a way that, like, the majority of people are adhering to it, or it doesn't. Man, there's so much shit that I can complain about this book. Ultimately, I did finally stop reading it. Probably about a third of the way through. I was like, what is this, man? And then I get online and come to find out that this author was a TikToker or something, which I had never even heard of. And she said she was in a manic phase and wrote this book that's like 500 something pages. In like 6 days or something. 528 pages. And I don't know if it was ever, I mean, the editor was like her friend or something, and it seemed like it was barely edited. Like, this is the kind of shit that I don't even know, man. Like, if I were reading through a slush pile of shit people sent in to me, and I was like, you know, the bottom rung of a publishing company looking at something, and fucking this shit came across the desk, even as a first draft, I would have flung that shit and started looking for something else. Like, the writing was bad, just I don't even know. Everything about this was so awful. And on top of that, the hilarity of this being written in like 6 days or 8 days or some bullshit. I'm pretty sure it was 6, and the next book in the series, this is a series by the way, was written in like 9 days or some shit like that. It's not something to be proud of. That's embarrassing. Okay? This shit is awful. But also come to find out that people that were leaving bad reviews because this shit sucks, the author and the editor or one of her friends or something showing up on like Goodreads and shit and arguing with people and like that. I don't know what the fuck is going on with like authors and shit lately. I don't even remember that one lady's name that like made a bunch of fake accounts just recently and like fucking left bad reviews on books that were coming out around the same time as hers was going to, and like it turned into this big thing, and she lost like her book deal, she lost a movie deal, like holy shit. Wow. Anyway, shit's fucking out of control, and this author and the whole situation, I think, is just right on par with weird shit that's going on in like publishing lately. So yeah. Also, if I didn't mention, this book has like an incesty romance. Like, these two girls grow up as like, they're both in a foster, well, it's like a church foster care kind of thing. Whatever the fuck those are called. And one girl's older and like will do anything to save like the little sister one, and then later they're like in love, which is just, you know, there's enough hate for this book out there. You can go watch something. Honestly, it's like funny bad. It really is worth taking a look, maybe just even at anything somebody else has to say about it, because goddamn. Alright, so those are my books. That's what I liked. That's what I disliked. For the most part, I was burning in hell trying to read books this year. Thanks for watching. Bye.